I'm Erin Kiernan. Thanks for joining us today on WHO13.com. My guest today is someone whose name will ring a bell for Americans of a certain age, which is interesting because no one was ever supposed to know who she is. Former CIA Agent Valerie Plame is joining us by Zoom. Valerie, thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, Erin. It's a delight. Thank you for having me.
Remind people why your name rings a bell to them.
Right. In 2003, my then husband, Ambassador Joe Wilson, wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times entitled What I Did Not Find in Africa. And in it, he went after the central premise that the Bush White House was giving for our invasion of Iraq, which was an imminent nuclear threat. And his op-ed, Joe's op-ed said, I think that this is bogus. The intelligence has been cherry-picked. This is a really bad idea. And the Bush White House became very angry. And a week later, I was outed from the CIA. I was a covert CIA operations officer. I focused specifically on nuclear counterproliferation. And that just began this crazy political whirlwind. It ultimately ended 4 years later with the indictment and conviction of Scooter Libby, who is Vice President Cheney's chief of staff. But it was a big political thing at the time, and a movie's been made of it. We wrote some books that led to the movie, and it was a, shall I say, a life-altering experience.
No doubt. It ended your career as a CIA agent, changed your life forever, and that is the reason you're the keynote for an upcoming event. It's the Chrysalis Foundation's Insights Luncheon, and I know you're going to be talking about the power of women leading in these sorts of high-stakes spaces. Talk about what it's like to be a woman in this sort of role.
Well, it's certainly not one that I expected or I wanted. As you noted, I wish I had my old career. I loved what I did. I was so proud to serve my country. It felt meaningful, but that's not the hand I was dealt. So it took some years to figure out my footing, if you will. My career was done, and we just tried to figure out the way ahead and where I could put. All of a sudden, I was this very public person, even though I didn't want to be. And how could I best use the power of that platform? And something I've always been passionate about, which I continued from my career in the CIA, is the nuclear threat. But I also have spoken on a variety of topics, being a woman in a man's world, national security writ large. I am delighted to be speaking at the Chrysalis Foundation because of their focus on women and girls, which I think we need a lot more of today.
Yeah, the foundation's logo is the butterfly, and people who are involved in the organization talk a lot about us all having the ability to change and reinvent ourselves, even though sometimes it's hard, it's scary, maybe you don't want to do it. And your story really embodies this metaphor.
Yeah, again, not something I asked for, but you find your way forward. I look back, and it really took years. Honestly, I can say it wasn't until enforced quietude of COVID that I was able to unpack what the heck just happened.
Hmm.
Even though it had been many years, I had been moving so quickly. I had two small children to raise. There was a lot going on for many, many years, and it took some time. And how you evolve. I mean, I had a quite a public case, of course, but certainly, what woman has not had to pivot and figure out a whole new path ahead? Because that is what we do. We're someone's daughter, sister, and then you become a wife and then a mother. And if you're working, I mean, I think much more than men are constantly having to figure out, okay, how do I navigate these new waters? So I really look forward to speaking to this group, and it's for a good cause, of course.
It is a very good cause. So you use the word pivot. We're going to pivot now to politics a little bit because your story involved, as you mentioned, allegations of retribution, also efforts to punish dissent. So how does what we're observing in the current political climate resonate with you?
Oh, deeply, of course. I kind of feel like what happened to me was sort of just trying it out. And it ultimately it comes down to holding our government to account for their words and deeds and standing up and saying this was wrong. At the time, it was not a popular position to say maybe we shouldn't invade Iraq. There was a huge jingoistic fervor that now has changed completely. I'd say the vast majority of Americans would say maybe that was a mistake. And I'm so proud that my husband did stand up and say this is not a good idea. But there's a huge cost to it. There's consequences. And we're seeing that in today's politics in a much more aggressive and hard hitting manner than ever before. People are standing up and saying, this isn't right. We are a country of laws. That is what we're grounded in. And we're going to hold our government to account for them. But it's, as we are seeing every day, it is, our democracy is definitely challenged.
I'm very curious because of your personal experience. What do you think about the Pentagon placing restrictions and requirements on journalists?
Oh, I believe, yeah, First Amendment right. We have been hearing a lot about this in recent days, and this always has been tricky. We have the First Amendment right of free speech, but how much of hate speech does that include? Does that include political enemies? I don't think so. Um, and we're going to have to sort this out, but hopefully in a more civil discourse, which just is about seems to have disappeared from the public square. But it specifically to your question, it's listen, I came from a world of classified operations. I understand how important it is to protect sources and methods. And in the Pentagon, how to protect our troops on the ground. That said, the American people are paying for this and have a right to understand what is the strategy, what are we doing, and I think banning journalists from the Pentagon press room is exactly the wrong way to go.
Okay, changing gears just a little bit, lightening things up, if you will. If the American people knew what people with your level of clearance knew, would we feel more or less safe? Would we have more or less faith in our leaders? How do you think we would react?
I think I would answer that by saying my former colleagues in the intelligence community, the CIA and all the other affiliated ones, you take an oath to your country, not to the president. You take an oath to the Constitution. And the vast majority of them are truly patriotic, good Americans. But when they have been treated, as we have seen in previous months, in such a humiliating manner, being pushed out of their jobs. One, the CIA part of me comes out and says that's a counterintelligence problem. So we need to, this is a very tumultuous time. We use this all the time. It's unprecedented. And I am so proud of the people that stand on principle, that stand on the Constitution, and we'll continue to see it being pushed. That is for sure.
Okay, finally, how much of what we read in novels or see in movies is realistic or accurate?
Sorry to burst your bubble. I wish I had that James Bond life. Um, Listen, who doesn't love a good spy movie? Everyone does, or a good spy book. It's fantastic, and it takes you, you're an armchair traveler. But the truth is, very little intelligence is collected when there's a gun in the room. Okay, first off, your best weapon is this. And the other huge mischaracterization in popular media is that it is sort of a lone wolf game, and that's not true. Although I was a case officer, I'm the one who's meeting and recruiting assets. It's done with an entire team, and you can never forget that.
Okay, Valerie Plame, former CIA agent, and now, well, we can add lots of things to your title: author, movie contributor, activist, advocate, and soon to be featured speaker at the Chrysalis Luncheon in October. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks so much.